welcome. We're at Go Live Vegas Studios, and let me tell you something, this is the best studio in Vegas for sure. We're in the entertainment capital world, Las Vegas, Nevada, and we're on episode 21 already. Are you sure, Aaron? Is it 21? Oh my gosh, we have a guest on our show today. Hello? Bradley?
Carmen.
Carmen Bradley. See, I remembered your name. Carmen Bradley.
Hello, everyone.
Carmen, thank you for being on our show. I so appreciate it. Listen, Carmen's going to be on our show today. We're going to talk about her brother, what happened to her brother back in 2016. And it was Corona, California, correct?
Correct, yeah.
At a skate park, right? So we're going to need your help because we're definitely going to want to share this, get it out to everybody, guys. I did a TikTok on it, but I wanted to bring her on the show so we can go over what happened to her brother. So let's show some respect, guys. If you have any questions, please call in. Aaron, what's the number again? Oh, there it is. 1-833-847-7227. We'll answer your calls. And Carmen already said she's going to stay the whole show, right? So we're going to talk crime. We're going to talk crime the whole time. So listen, let's before we get into your brother's tragedy, let's talk about you a little bit. So how'd you get to Vegas? Did you live here your whole life?
I haven't, actually. I moved here in 2018.
Okay.
I was living on a boat in Florida for a few months.
You lived on a boat. How was that?
I lived on a boat. It was spectacular.
I bet you it was. But I guess the waves, did you get seasick sometimes?
I couldn't sleep.
Okay.
Yeah, you're just rocking the whole time.
All right.
I felt like my memories were going back to when I was in the womb, literally. Just
I bet.
Back and forth the whole time. Yeah. But I kind of moved here on accident. Like, life just kind of pushed me here.
Yeah.
I think for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you came from Florida to here?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm originally from California.
Cali, okay.
Yeah. I was in Florida just for a few months, like the summer of 2018.
Okay.
And I moved here. It was December 19th, 2018.
Okay.
I drove across country by myself. My car was full of stuff. I had a tiny little dog. Moved in with my grandpa. And gosh, so much has happened since then.
I came in 2016. I drove across the country from Pennsylvania too. Your ride was probably longer.
Maybe. I don't know.
It took me 4 days, but I took my time. I did 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
That's what I tried to do, 10 hours a day, but it to get here. But so now you're here, and let's tell people what you do full time now, because you just told me that full time.
Yeah.
You are an actress.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Thanks.
Did you make any movies yet?
I'm making one right now.
Oh, wow.
It's called Bad Substitute.
Okay. Bad substitute teacher?
Yeah, Bad Substitute. Just
Okay.
Bad Substitute.
All right.
But yeah, it's about a substitute teacher, kind of like cares for the kids, but doesn't have boundaries because he's like really young. So I'm playing a high school age student.
Okay.
We started shooting end of April. Yeah, end of April, and then we're finishing it up starting Friday and then next week.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is very interesting to me. So do you guys like work every day? How does that work? If you don't mind asking, because I'm sure our viewers would definitely want to like that. How does that work?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Last time we did a couple days at a basketball gym, and then we did a couple days at a trampoline park. So we just kind of like rented it out kind of thing. And then one day was at a house because there was like a party scene. So like 2 days we were working like through the night. A couple other days it was normal work hours, like 7:30 to 4 kind of thing. Next week we're shooting at a school as we're doing all the school scenes. So it's going to be 7:30 in the morning to like 5. Yeah.
I was telling you before we got on, we shot that reality show.
Yeah.
It was the same thing. And I'll tell you what, I don't know. I'm assuming acting's sort of like the reality shows too. I mean, you're filming, and I'll be honest with you, when I got done, I was tired.
Yeah.
I mean, I got home at night, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I actually respected more of the actors because, I don't know, I'm assuming the same thing with you. It's kind of mentally draining. Am I right? Like, because you're thinking, I got to do this, I got to do that. You know, it just seems... Hey, Greg, if somebody's watching us from Florida. Hey, welcome, Greg, all the way from Florida. That's where she's originally from. So welcome, Greg. That's true. So you ended up becoming an actress. You got your first movie thing here, right?
Yeah.
We just lost something, Aaron. I could hear.
Turn it down a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Turn up your headphones.
Okay.
Okay.
And could you hear good?
Yeah, I can hear all right.
Okay. Yeah, it seems down a little bit here.
Sorry, Mr. Euro cut.
That's all right. It's better now. That was way too down. Okay. Now I'm hearing a little feedback. All right. So you moved here in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's go back to 2016. You were living in California too with your brother?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your brother was 18, correct?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about him. What did he do? You know, was he, I saw he was a lifeguard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did he wrestle? Like what kind of wrestling? Like high school wrestling
He did
type?
high school wrestling. Yeah, that was one of the sports he did as a kid.
Okay.
That was kind of the one he connected with the most. Before he died, he was really into like Brazilian jiu-jitsu,
Okay.
martial arts, that kind of stuff.
Sort of like the UFC has, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not into it myself.
I mean, honestly, I'm
Yeah.
a big sports fan, but
Yeah.
I don't watch the UFC for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but other than that, I'm a big sports fan. I just
Yeah.
don't watch that.
Yeah.
So, and what that would make sense though, because wrestlers usually get into that. They're usually very good at that. My son was a wrestler, so I assume. Did you ever go to your brother's tournaments?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
weren't they all day long?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
yeah.
I would get there at 6 a.m. with my son. We wouldn't leave to 6, 7 o'clock because my son
Yeah.
was good, so he ended up going to the end.
Yeah.
And oh my God, but it was exciting.
Yeah.
So your brother was a wrestler. He was a lifeguard. I saw it. I was on the Facebook page
Yeah.
to the memorial of your brother, and oh my gosh, I saw your dad. I saw your mother. I saw that they have in Idaho. Is that where he's originally from?
No, we're all from California, but they kind of relocated. That's my stepfather. He relocated there, and then
Then he got that dedicated to him by the bench
yeah,
there.
the bench. Yeah, I wasn't really involved in that, but yeah, that was kind of a big thing. I mean, it was huge. It changed all of us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was a lot of memorial stuff, like even at the park for a good 6 months, maybe even a year. People kept bringing stuff. It was this like memorial, basically like a homemade. There were candles, there were books, there were stuffed animals, there were like skateboards from all of his friends. People were writing stuff. We had signs up. They would come take it down and they would
Oh my
rebuild
gosh.
it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It's horrible. So let's take you to that night, right? Your brother. Did you see your brother that day, or no?
No, I was in. What was I doing? I was teaching high school.
Okay.
So I was living with my little sister, but I was living in an apartment in Huntington Beach. He was living with my mom in Corona.
Okay.
So he. Want me to go into it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was having kind of a barbecue. He was like that. Like, he always just had people over.
Okay.
He would, like, befriend kids who were kind of, like, homeless, and he was just always bringing people over, feeding them, teaching them, that kind of thing. So he had one of his, like, big get-togethers. I was, like, off of Facebook for my own, like, personal reasons, and I ended up, obviously, going back after it happened, and I saw that he had posted that, and I just had this, like, overwhelming guilt. Like, had I known he was having a get-together, had I gone? Like,
Right.
Maybe he wouldn't have gone to the park, kind of thing.
Right.
So he leaves the get-together and goes to the park, and that's where the story is, like, obviously I didn't see it.
I understand. So what did you hear? Like, he shows up at the park, and these guys also showed up. Mm-hmm. So, oh my gosh. And I read an article, and I don't know how true it is. I'm just reading from I read on the news
Yeah.
that they were actually, after your brother was stabbed, okay, he actually helped try to fight off the other guys that were beating
Yeah.
his friends up. Is that true? Did you hear that also?
Yeah, I did. He actually, like, an eyewitness came to our house the day that we found out. So it was the morning after it happened.
Okay.
And he was just in tears telling us, like, your brother, your son saved my life. Like, I would have been the one who died if he hadn't jumped in. That's just who he was. Like, he jumped in to save him, essentially, I think, from what I heard.
Right.
And from, I don't know, like, what my heart knows, I
Right.
guess. Yeah.
No, what I saw, and I saw in your, like, I read the whole article, his friends even said your brother was like a hero to them, and this and that, and,
Yeah.
you know, it makes me sick. I mean, Carmen, he's 18 years old. I mean,
Yeah.
we think, when we're in that age, and I could take, I'm old, but I could take myself back to that age group, and you think that's your whole life, but it's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When my kids in high school would come home and they were like, Dad, this happened, this guy don't like me, this person, I would tell them, listen, this is not your life. When you get out of high school, you ain't even going to see these people anymore. Yeah. Maybe you'll be Facebook friends with them, maybe, right? Yeah. So it's not your life. So when I think of it, I think, oh my gosh, what could your brother have done with his life? That's what makes me sick. That they took that from you, that took that from him. And that's why I do this, because I know as a cop, if you don't keep these cases out in the front, they get thrown to the back. I know it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just the way it is, because more cases come in every single day.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to keep this case out. That's why I invited you on here. And let me tell you this. What do you think could solve this? Now, you heard rumors before you got here today that maybe the person that did this may be unalive themselves, correct?
Yeah.
But what do you think? We need somebody to come forward, right?
Yeah.
Anybody, there had to be somebody see this, right?
Yeah.
Now, the cops showed up that day. Did they interview everybody?
Gosh,
I would say they did. They would have to.
I don't even remember if I talked to cops. I know I talked to like a news person because they put out an article about my brother that made me really upset. Kind of painted him as a hooligan, and I was like, I mean,
don't
you
blame
read
you.
what everyone said about
Yeah,
him.
I don't blame you. I'd have been mad.
Yeah, I was upset, so I pushed my mom to get it rewritten, and so we got the article rewritten and had it say more of like what we thought about him and what his friends thought about him, regardless of what neighborhoods he might have been involved in or what people he knew that led to his death, that kind of thing. I was like, regardless of that, I knew who my brother was to the core, so I made them rewrite it. But I don't remember if I talked to the cops or anything. I know that my mom did.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. My mom was saying that like.
How old were you at the time?
Oh, 2016. Math.
You don't have to tell me. I shouldn't be asking that question.
Oh, no, it's totally fine.
I'm just trying to think of what if they were. Well, you weren't a juvenile at the time,
I was
right?
24, 25.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was putting you at 24, 25 now.
I'll be 32 on June 12th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's why. I was thinking you might have been a juvenile, and maybe that's why they didn't talk to you.
No.
But really, honestly, they should have talked to you because you don't know who might know something.
Yeah.
So they really, honestly, they should have talked to you if they didn't. Because really, you should talk to every single family member because just sometimes something that doesn't seem a lot could solve a case. It's really weird. And I think this is the time I told you I had a real good idea. Okay? And I'm going to tell my followers today, too. I had a real good idea how we can try to help people with their cases like yours.
Yeah.
Okay? In the past, we put rewards out. Okay, and I saw Corona Police put out a $10,000 reward for your brother. The old podcast I used to be on, The Problem Solver, we put a $5,000 reward for the body in the barrel. We put a $5,000, we got rewards from the community.
Yeah.
But nothing ever seems to help with these rewards. So my idea, I was driving there today and I thought to myself, I got a better idea. What we should do is we should get a private investigator. And listen, this is so new to me. I just thought about it coming in here. But if we can get a private investigation company to volunteer their time and give somebody 40 hours of their service, and maybe even if I can get donations from the community, and maybe we could pick somebody once a month that this private investigator could help. I'm trying to think of different ways because rewards are one thing, but now me and you discussed, and I don't want to talk about everything on here, but me and you discussed people are probably afraid to come forward. So even if you give that reward out there, people are still afraid. And I understand these communities can be rough in some of these areas. You got gang activity. So I understand why people don't want to come forward. I even understood that when I was a cop. You know what I mean? People get scared. They're afraid. But I thought this is even better. If you can get somebody to work on a case for 40 hours, I mean, it's definitely something I definitely want to look into, something maybe we could progress here in the podcast because the rewards aren't working. We've done rewards and they don't work. They really don't. So I think why not get somebody, a private investigator, to be able to go out there and maybe help somebody else that this case never involved in. And I have followers from all over the country. So I would have to get a private investigator in that location. Say it wasn't in Las Vegas, it was in Arizona, somewhere like that, California, like your case is in California.
Yeah.
But it's something that I definitely want to do going forward. You think that's a good idea? I think it is.
Yeah, I think that you're tapping into kind of like the wrong thing with the reward. Maybe not in any case, but like in this case, what's the incentive to talk, especially if they were kind of like involved. Whereas if you have somebody going in and asking the right questions, who knows where to look, that might get more done.
I totally agree with you. And these private investigators, they're very professional. The one private investigator I work with here in Las Vegas, he's a retired FBI agent. You know what I mean? So you got these people, and I have a good relationship with him. In fact, he is actually on my website. If somebody needed a private investigator, they could get him. You know what I mean? And I can actually work under him too as a private investigator. But that's definitely something that we want to do. I think that's the future of this podcast because what gift you can give somebody of like 40 hours of somebody working on their deceased family member's case. I mean, it would be, to me, it'd be outstanding because these private investigators, they're expensive.
Yeah.
They charge $150 to $200 an hour. I mean, it's
That seems almost even not that steep.
I know, but I mean, some of them I'm sure cost more.
Yeah.
But I'm just going by what I think.
Yeah.
It might be more.
I'm just thinking about like how much therapy is. Like therapy can be upwards of 150 if you're fully licensed.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
Private investigator used to be an FBI agent. I'm thinking like 300.
And he's really good. He
Yeah.
was just on. There was an unsolved mysteries case that was out there from Las Vegas. It was this guy. Gosh, I can't think of the guy's name, but he ran like a little independent wrestling, like WWF wrestling around here. I forget what they call him, but he was unalived, and his case has never been solved.
Wow.
And it was on Unsolved Mysteries. And this guy that I have on my website, he actually was on Unsolved Mysteries doing this. He's retired. Buffalo Jim, you got it. Thanks for looking that up. Buffalo Jim, the guy's name was. I'm actually trying to get his family on my show also. Try to get that out there because that was on Unsolved Mysteries. So I think that's a way to help people. You want to get them a private investigator? Listen, you know, rewards are good, but it doesn't get people to come forward anymore. It really doesn't. Find a company that are in more than one state. I agree with you, Charlie. That's what we got to do. I want to get a private investigation company that might be like the whole West Coast or the whole East Coast, something like that. And this way we could get it out there and people could. I think it's a good idea. Even if maybe we get donations from the community and maybe give one a month.
Yeah.
12 a year or something like that. I mean, could you imagine that? I mean, telling your mom and dad, hey, I got a private investigator for 40 hours. And I might even get a private investigator, me and Aaron, talking to donate his time, you know, to a good cause. And he might want to solve the case. And it'd be, you know, it'd promote his business and everything else. So listen, if any private investigators out there, call me. thecrimesolver@yahoo.com. You can email me. Don't laugh at my Yahoo email.
Yahoo.
I know. You know, Dawn told me yesterday, she said, you got to get a Gmail. I did, real funny story. This company, when you're on TikTok, you get a lot of companies call you.
Yeah.
Oh, Aaron, you know what? You know why TikTok's acting up? We're on airplane mode.
Is it not working?
I don't know what's going on. It doesn't seem like we have a lot of followers today.
Okay.
Maybe it's because we're on, I don't know. Maybe we're not. I just noticed we're on airplane mode.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, that might. It's like, yeah, I don't know why it's on airplane mode. I noticed that on my phone the other day too. I had to end up taking it off. But I'm not. Could everybody hear us good? I'm gonna make sure. Yeah, they said your mic's not up enough.
Oh.
I think it's good though.
Sometimes I speak really quietly also.
Huh?
No, that's TikTok though.
Okay.
They don't have the wireless mics, remember?
Yeah, that's true. That's right. That's exactly right.
When I broke them, tell everybody I broke them.
Aaron broke the mics for TikTok. We will have new mics next week. I promise everybody we'll have new mics next week. So, yeah, I think that's a good way to solve cases because these cases get cold. I mean, they really do. And people just, they just put it on the back burner because it's human nature. A new case came in, and listen, I'm going to tell you this, a squeaky wheel. You know how they say that? Gets results. So the louder you are, the more you put the case out there, it starts getting people's attention.
Yeah.
I had this case. In fact, his mother texted me last night, emailed me last night. She may call into the show today. I told her that we would be on and she could call in to give us an update. Oh, we got something. No, can't hear you. Just kidding. Listen, she called into the show about 4 weeks ago, maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago. Her son, he was living with this girl. They had an argument. She says he walks out to his car and leaves her and never sees him again. But the truth of the matter is he had no shoes on. When the cops show up, there's like blood stains on the refrigerator, furniture's knocked over, and this man has never been missing. He has never been found.
Wow.
She says, his girlfriend says he got mad at her, got in his car and left. With no shoes on, left his wallet, everything there. So it's a very, very weird case. So she emailed me last night because she's getting it on every podcast. She was on my podcast. And you know what? She's starting to get results. Now she emailed the sheriff of the town and like just getting it out there. And I could tell she's going to get results because she's putting it on every podcast. So she may call in today. Aaron and your staff are amazing. Thank you for all you do. Tom Page likes you, Aaron.
That's my hot buddy.
Oh, is it? All right, Tom. Tom, come on next week. I'm here. Wales. We actually got somebody from Wales. I got a bunch of followers from the UK. So not only is it America, we have a ton of followers from Australia, the UK, everything here.
Yeah.
So, but it's very quiet on here today on TikTok. Usually people are micing right in. But so now your father lives in Idaho, or is that his stepfather?
That's my stepfather.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's his father.
His father.
And
yeah.
he got the bench, and I saw that little
Yeah.
memorial for him.
Yeah.
Your mother still lives in California?
She lives in Idaho also.
Oh, she lives in Idaho too.
Yeah.
Okay, so they all
Yeah.
moved to Idaho after all of this, right?
Yeah. Well, no, he was there. His dad was already there.
Okay.
That's where my brother was a lifeguard because he lived with his dad for a short period of time.
Okay.
And then my mom, I guess she moved up there because my little sister had also lived there because that was her dad. And
Yeah.
my little sister wanted to go back and my mom wanted to get out.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really that she was like following him so much as she had a couple kids there. And so she wanted to like start over. So she left shortly before I moved to Florida. My mom left, and then I had my own thing where I was like, I'm alone, and I was
Right.
like trying to figure out my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's tough. You were
Yeah.
young yet, and
I
being
was pretty young, early 20s.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't know California that well. Is Corona? Is it a rough area or?
Not really. That's what blows my mind. Like thinking about this, there are some parts,
Right.
You know, and
just like
as-
Vegas. There's parts you don't want to go to in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Same thing.
But there were stabbings and shootings at a couple of the local high schools. So it was
Okay.
just like, I guess like any place is just once you're actually aware of it, especially to this like intimate of an extent, you realize like how that it exists.
Yes.
Like, you know, like murders keep rolling in over and over again.
Yes.
You're saying that. I'm like, that's crazy. Like,
It does, especially in this city. We average in this city. You're averaging a murder a day.
that's insane.
Isn't it? It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's what you're averaging here in Las Vegas. Sometimes more. I remember Thanksgiving. I think it was Thanksgiving weekend. 8.
Wow.
We had 8 over the Thanksgiving weekend. I mean, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our city, it was up there in like the top 10 for crime. I mean, I'm worrying about Vegas. I am.
Yeah.
Because it could get bad, and I don't want to see it. I mean, there's some very nice parts of town, but there are town parts that you have to roll your windows up. I mean, that's for sure. And
Yeah.
you want to keep that strip safe too. I mean, that's our bread and butter. I mean, that's what makes the city. So you want to make sure that the tourists come here and they feel safe. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But so it's not a bad area. It's sort of like Corona.
Yeah, no, especially like if most people move there because it's like a family town. It's
Right.
like suburbia. There's not much to do there but go to the movies.
Right.
You know?
Right. But you know what? Unfortunately, crime happens everywhere anymore.
Yeah.
It's so shocking. And 4th in the country. Don got it. I thought it was 5th. I was going to say 5th, but 4th in the country.
Hi, Don.
So think about this. Now, my whole life, I thought that kids should go to school because it makes them social more, hanging out with other kids. But I'll be honest with you. If I had a kid now, I would honestly consider homeschool. I honestly wouldn't. I never in my life would think I would think that way.
Yeah.
But it's unsafe. You got the school shootings, right? You got the violence in school. You got gangs in school. You got teachers doing stuff to students in school. We see it every day. I'm starting to think to myself, it might be safer to homeschool your kid.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that because I believe kids need social skills. I believe
Yeah.
they should be around other kids
Yeah.
because it helps them socially. But I'm to the point, my grandson's 8. I have a grandson, he's 8. And I worry about him going to school and everything. I start to think about that, and life is just, to me, it's just more dangerous now than it was when I grew up.
Yeah. I mean, I say yeah like I know.
But you know what? And anybody out there could tell you, I love you guys. When I grew up, right, this is the truth, Carmen. When I grew up, it was just like anything. Guys didn't get along, girls didn't get along. But what would happen was you'd be like, oh, Joe and Jim are going to fight after school, right? But Joe and Jim didn't bring weapons. They just fought. And if somebody got the better of them, I swear to you, people would break it up. So they might throw a couple punches. Once one guy got the other guy down, other people would break it up, and they wouldn't let them fight anymore.
Yeah.
That's how it was in the 80s. And, I'm sure anybody that's grew up in the 80s here on my TikTok, they're going to tell you. It was different times. People weren't so violent.
And then you bought the guy a beer after.
Yes, and then there was times you were friends with them. You know what I mean? You were friends right after that. It was just a different time where I don't even know if kids fight anymore. They just bring weapons. It's
What do they-
scary.
What do they call that thing where you're like erasing stuff? Something. But we're like in society, we make it so that we don't tell people about things that are really happening.
Cancel,
What's the
or
term?
I know what you mean.
Cancel culture.
Yes.
I feel like that's kind of how schools function these days. Like my stepson is 5 and
Okay.
he goes to school and he fights all the time. But teachers don't know how to deal with it, and then they almost like criminalize it.
Right.
So there's no like outlet for a young boy who has like testosterone who might like need to fight. Like
Yeah.
schools I have so much to say about schools and why they're not the way they're not functioning well.
Listen, I agree with you. I think we take things too serious now. Like when I grew up, listen, I got in fist fights in school. I did. I remember I got in a fist fight so bad in school that my shirt was torn. I had blood on it. I remember going to my locker, trying to get the blood off my face, grabbing a new shirt from my gym bag to wear in class. And the teachers knew about the fight and everything. Nowadays, I'd have been in jail.
Oh, yeah.
I would have been, suspended, in jail. Yeah. Like, listen, boys are going to fight. We can't make them criminals because they fight. I mean, I think we take things too serious. And you're going to laugh at this one. You're probably going to think I'm lying. But when I was in Little League, my Little League coaches would bring a case of beer to practice. They would drink beer, laying on the field, drinking Coors Light and Miller Lite while we practiced. These poor guys would be in jail now. They'd be on the front page of CNN, Fox News saying, oh my God, these Little League coaches brought beer to the practice. Yeah. That was normal life back in the 80s. Yeah. The coaches drank right in the dugout while you were playing the Little League game. Yeah. Life has changed so much, and I do believe we take things too much now.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
I'm thinking about how that then applies to what happened to my brother and where you find the balance in society, because obviously there's cancel culture is making it so that you can't say words on TikTok about things that are really happening. And how can you, I shared a little bit about my story on Vegas Views, right? We grew up in a violent household, which then created this cycle of violence. Whereas I feel if we were able to talk about it more, if CPS did what they were supposed to do, then my brother wouldn't have been in the situation where he was. It's that, when you're living and functioning in a world of secrets, where the grown-up world is secret to the kid world, adults don't drink alcohol until you become an adult, and all of a sudden everybody drinks alcohol. It's I don't know. You got to be more truthful, I think.
I totally agree with you. And CPS, listen, I've always had trouble dealing with them also as a cop. Yeah. I felt, and I don't want to diss them, but I felt they didn't do their job all the time. Now, I understand their hands are probably tied. I'm sure there's different rules, but I always felt that they didn't do what they should have done. And as a police officer, we had power in Pennsylvania where if I felt there was children in danger, I could actually take the children, call CPS and take the children off the parents. I'm going to tell you, Carmen, I did that once. And honestly, I felt like hell over it. Even though I knew them kids, I was afraid to leave these kids. I still felt like hell. I still picture them kids in the back of my police car. And thinking I was the bad guy, which technically I was that night because them kids, but I felt I had to do it because I felt that if I didn't take them kids that night, something could have happened. Yeah. And I even felt bad for the parents. Honestly, that it was something that I didn't want to do, but I had to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know what the right thing is. Yeah. I really don't, because kids love their parents no matter what.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, kids love their parents no matter what. So you don't know if you're doing the right thing. But I agree with you. This cancel culture stuff is hurting everything.
Yeah.
It really is. I do a TikTok video. I question everything I say. I'm like, could I say this? Am I allowed to say this? I mean, it's to the point that it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
We're all adults. We could say adult words. I don't know why this is like this.
Yeah.
Danny, get back in our day teaching, still did things with students. We just never ratted. I just saw that. Honest to God, you know what is shocking to me? I'll see a female teacher have relations with a 16-year-old boy. I just seen that on the news the other day. I'm like, oh my God. That was unheard of. We did not, when we grew up, I never heard of that stuff. Or maybe it was just in the back burner, no one talked about it, but I never heard about that at all.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy just thinking everything seems to be on this vein of opposites, right?
Yes.
You hear more about stuff now, but then you also don't at the same time. Right. I guess maybe it depends on what society finds important.
Right.
I don't know what they make a big deal.
And you know what? I don't know if we were talking about it on Vegas Views or not. I think we were, where the media goes after somebody that's attractive looking. Mm-hmm. They'll take a case, okay, where somebody that was attractive was the killer, like Jodi Arias, okay? And that case will get all the media attention. Or if the victim was pretty, all the media attention, right? But then you see other cases getting zero media attention. You know what I mean? You think to yourself, why is this case getting all the media attention? It's for ratings. You know, I think of the other case, Scott Peterson. Why did that case? Because the girls liked him, right? He was the good-looking guy that was the murderer, right? So that's why they got cases. But it's just not unfair that a lot of cases don't get the publicity other cases do. It really is.
Yeah.
Just got to watch the Crime Solver, some stuff drinking a Miller Lite. Okay, now I'm ready. Fill me in on what I missed, Charlie. See, that's my followers. They're coming in late today for some reason. They're coming in late today. But our teachers were old hags. Teachers today are hot. That's what I get from my followers. Listen, but I'll be honest with you, Kevin. When my mother turned 30, she definitely didn't act like me at 54. My mother was like, she acted older at 30. Like, I think we're, like, me at 54, like, there's no way my father would be on a podcast and doing TikTok. My father was an old man already. He was sitting in a chair watching TV.
Yeah.
I think we're aging better.
Yeah.
I really do. I think we're all aging better. We're not sitting in the house. We're being motivated. We're not just sitting in the house. Yeah. So, listen, I want to get your opinion. Do you follow any of the murder cases that are coming up? Did you look at the Idaho case? Are you familiar with that at all? The 4 students?
Yeah, briefly.
Okay.
My family lives up there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's right. You're from. Did they say anything about the case or anything? No. Listen, that case, I'm going to be honest with you, I had about 50,000 to 60,000 followers. That case brought me to 170,000.
Yeah.
That case, and I think to myself, 54 feel 35. There you go, Kevin. But I think to myself, why is this case so out there? And it's because you got 4 young people just like your brother.
Yeah.
They had their whole life ahead of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have your whole life ahead of you. Who knows what they're going to graduate from college? Who knows what they're going to be? And it was taken from them and their parents. Yeah. And this is a small town, Moscow, Idaho, which I don't know. I looked it up. I can't remember. I'm going to say like 30, 40,000 people. Am I right?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. So it's a small town. It's not like this big city like Las Vegas. So this tragedy just, I mean, it shocked the nation. I mean, of what happened. And it's really funny because this guy that did that's alleged to do the crime, he actually is from my area where I was a cop and everything. It's so crazy that he ended up getting arrested in my area. So there's a lot of talk on TikTok here that people are saying that it might not be him, he's being framed. Same thing we talk about. The conspiracy, everything's a conspiracy, nothing's the truth, the cancel culture. I said today, how is he being framed? I did a video. You tell me how this guy's being framed. Where's the evidence that he didn't do it, right? People got on me. I got unfollowed because of it. People got mad at me. People are so uptight when somebody has a different opinion than them. They get all uptight anymore. They unfollow you. They hate you. You know what I mean? It's just, we need to relax is what we do. We all need to relax, talk it out. That's what we do. We need to talk it out.
I wonder if it's just hard for people to believe that somebody could murder anybody, especially more than one person.
See, and I agree with you, Carmen. I don't know if you heard the whole case. What he did, and if you heard this, then stop me, okay? But there were 6 roommates, okay? 4 of them he unalived, 2 of them slept through the whole thing. Did you know that? They slept through the whole thing. They didn't call the police to 10 hours after the incident.
Wow.
So people in their minds think the other 2 students are involved. So they start blaming these other 2 kids.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is these other 2 kids didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Could you imagine waking up? They woke up the next morning and found their roommates like that. It's shocking. And then there was a dog on the scene, Carmen. They kept the dog in the other room. The dog, when the police showed up, the dog was in a room all by itself. So that was a little weird. But then I thought, did the killer actually put the dog in that room? Who knows, right?
They got a light inside of them.
So anyway, how they and if anybody wants to call in and add their 2 cents, 1-833-847-7227. I know Kevin Tate, Kevin Balliot, and I saw Charlie up. You guys have big mouths, so we definitely want your opinion. Call in. We want your opinion. We saw your big mouths up there. But so a lot of people, there's a lot of conspiracies out there. Why did it take them 10 hours to call the cops?
Yeah.
How did they not hear this?
Yeah.
They said the walls are real quiet. You can hear through the walls. You know, the walls are paper thin. How didn't they hear this? But then I thought to myself, Nowadays, kids sleep with headphones on. They might have been listening to music. Who knows? Could you imagine waking up to that and realizing how lucky you are that you weren't one of the victims?
Yeah.
I mean, them kids talk about therapy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, survivor guilt is such a thing.
Yes.
My dad, he was in the Marines, and he had a whole helicopter. His whole platoon crashed and died, and he happened to not be on it that day.
Oh, my
and
gosh.
he's 63 now, and he's still going through it.
So I could be your father. Your
Yeah.
dad's 60. See, now I'm definitely feeling old. I'm definitely feeling old.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I totally get that. And you know, survivor guilt, and I think that's what these two girls are going through right now.
Yeah.
They're thinking and think about this is their friends. Could you imagine losing one friend? You lost 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so shocking. This case like grabbed America by the heart and just pulled it, and everybody is so onto this case. Oh, we got a call. Hey, you got the crime solver. You got Danny and Carmen here. Who do we have on the
Hi.
phone?
Yeah, Danny, it's Charlie. Go back to her brother's case. Kevin didn't get to know it or hear it or anything else there. And hey, Carmen is it? I think you said or whatever.
Carmen.
Anyway.
Yes.
Like the tattoos. I like the black and
likes
gray
your
tattoos.
Oh, thank you.
Charlie, I haven't seen you in a while. I'm sure you're tatted up.
Yeah. I've got about 40 tats on me.
I figure.
Anyway, pal, just think DoorDash. Now go back to her. Goodbye.
What do you mean DoorDash?
What?
Oh! I know what he's saying. I did a video this week that quit telling me the DoorDash guy did this. Because there is a conspiracy out there because they ordered DoorDash that night that the DoorDash delivery guy did this.
Kevin, I don't know if you saw him on
No.
the screen. He said the dog must have known the killers because the dog wouldn't have been so quiet.
See, I agree with that, Kevin. I kind of agree with that because the dog was very quiet.
Yeah.
But this house was like, you know, it was a party house. You went to college, right?
Yes.
I mean, so this house was a party house where they all went and partied. Like the cops were there like 25 different times for loud music, noise complaints.
Yeah.
So there was people in and out of this house. And that's another thing, Carmen. What they're saying is, I don't know if you noticed, they found the knife case at the place. He left it there.
Yeah, you were saying that. Yeah.
And there's DNA on it, his DNA. And what they did was they got his father's DNA, and that's how they matched his DNA to the knife. So that's how they ended up solving this case. That's how the DNA got there. But a lot of people are saying on my TikTok, they're like, oh, well, you know, it was a party house. He could have been over there before. There's going to be DNA throughout the whole entire house. Yes, but not on a knife case.
Yeah.
Okay? It was on a knife case. Okay? It wasn't just laying in the house. It wasn't on the stove. It wasn't on the refrigerator. It was on a knife case. And what worries me is people don't use common sense anymore. And I'm afraid when you get somebody on a jury, they can vote not guilty when the person's guilty. It scares the hell out of me because people are crazy now.
We're taught to overthink
Yeah,
in schools.
yes.
So we overanalyze, but some things are simple.
And that's what I always tell people. And this is what I used to tell my detectives, right? Because I was in charge of our detective division. Go where the evidence takes you.
Yeah.
Don't think outside this. Like these people are saying, he had to have help. The evidence is showing that it's only him, that he didn't have help. But I understand why they're saying that. Because the kids, I believe they were in 2 or 3 different rooms. So how didn't they hear the other person? Like, it's just weird.
Yeah.
It is weird. And these rooms were close by each other. Like, I don't know how they didn't hear. I mean, there had to be screams, right?
Yeah.
It's weird. I understand why they're thinking that way because at first I thought that way. I thought, why would they not call for 10 hours? And then, Carmen, the other thing is they called their friends first before they called the police. So people are like, why didn't they just call the police? So there's a lot of conspiracies out there, you know? And the sad part for these 2 surviving victims, the defense attorneys are going to go after them. The defense attorneys are going, so your friends were unalive 10 hours ago, but you didn't call the police for 10 hours. You didn't call right then and there. Why did you wait for 10 hours? You didn't hear any of this go on? Like, I feel bad for them because the defense is going to go after them because that's what the defense does.
How
You know?
you react to trauma is so unpredictable. Like I have a tiny story where I used to coach cheerleading.
Okay.
And we were making crepes and there's a Bunsen burner and it blew up on one of my cheerleaders' faces. And I ended up grabbing what's the thing called? Put the fire out, all that stuff, like called the right people. But I don't know how I did it or how I knew what to do.
Right.
And some people, they really will freeze up. So the fact they called their friends, I mean, kind of makes sense. Like, you're going to call the person you're most comfortable talking to. You're not
Right.
going to know step by step how to respond to something like that.
I mean, they said that the one girl, she was so distraught.
Yeah.
She was like she passed out, couldn't talk, after all this. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, what the cops described, this was a brutal scene. A brutal scene. I mean, that's what they said. It was a brutal scene. So them waking up to that and seeing that, you're thinking, you might think the killer's still in the house too. Could you imagine that?
Yeah.
I mean, this case is so crazy. And then he just got indicted for the murders, right? 2 weeks ago. And he did something that really made people like another criminal conspiracy. When the judge asked him if he wanted to plead guilty or not guilty, he stood in silence and wouldn't say anything. So the judge pled not guilty for him. Because if you stand in silence, the judge pleads for you, not guilty. So people are like, why didn't he plead not guilty? Why did he stand there and not say anything? So there's all kind of conspiracies out there why he didn't do this. I'll be honest, and I didn't tell you this, he was a criminology major. He was actually he went to Washington State University, and he was like a student teacher over there. And all the girls in his class said he made them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
He was one of them kind of guys that made you feel uncomfortable.
Well, the standing up silent thing sounds like a mind game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what people think is him studying criminology, he wanted to do this. He wanted to do what he
Like he
learned.
planned it?
Yes. Now, the other thing is he's now being investigated for other cases in Pennsylvania where he lives, where he was a permanent resident before he went to college in Idaho. So there is now a grand jury that had his parents testify in Pennsylvania of a missing woman that went missing last year, and her remains were just found. That went out for a jog or left a party or something like that. So he could be the suspect in that. He could be a suspect in other cases. They're starting to think this man could have been a serial killer.
Dang, that gives me chills.
I know it's a scary thing, but I just think I'm with you. I think this cancel culture has got to people. I think people are like they think way ahead of things now instead of just look at the evidence, the sheet, the evidence. They also said there was a white car that passed, a white Honda Elantra, a girl on a supermarket. She was working at the supermarket store, the gas station store. She reviewed their videotapes and saw this car flying past, and it was his car.
Oh.
That's how they got put on to him. So there's like all kinds of things, but people, I find it hard to believe they were at the scene the whole time and didn't know anything. Why didn't the killer? I don't know, Kevin. And I think that's going to come out in court. I mean, to me, Kevin, that's weird to me.
Yeah.
That is weird to me that they didn't hear this. I mean, it's weird, but I'm assuming.
Were there any drugs involved? Like they were knocked
That's.
the F
I
out
mean,
or whatever?
even if you did, marijuana. I'm afraid TikTok's going to take me down.
Yeah.
But even if you did that puts you to sleep pretty good. If you did the indica, not that I know anything about this, but you know what I mean. That's a sleeping one. You're right, though. It could have been.
Yeah.
Mix marijuana with alcohol.
Yeah.
They could have been in a sound sleep.
Yeah. I mean, you're calling it a party house. That's what I'm thinking.
And that's the other thing. Them hearing noises.
Yeah.
They could have thought, oh, and I forgot to tell you this. That's my sister. Me too. It is strange, Joni. It's totally strange. But if you think of this, the one girl actually seen him leaving, but she didn't know it was him.
Oh.
She opened the door at one point and said, "Hey, I'm trying to sleep. Could you just put it down?" Closed the door, and she sees him walking. She sees the shadow of a male walking. But she thinks it's just someone leaving the party, but it was actually him. She actually told him to keep it down. Could you imagine? But I'm with Kevin, like Kevin Balliet, who put on there, why didn't he do the other two girls?
Yeah.
Did one of them fight back and he thought, you know what, I'm just getting out of here.
Did
you know
they
what I
have
mean?
like similarities? Like he only killed ones with brown hair or something like that?
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, one was a male. So you had 3 females and a male.
Right.
But the male was dating the one girl and he was in her room. So, you know what I mean? So you don't know. Was he just a casualty that...
Yeah.
A lot of people think he was focused on one girl. Okay? And he went to unalive that one girl and the other 3 were casualties.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which, who knows?
Yeah.
But he did. I think I told you guys this on Vegas Views. When they did a search of his apartment, they found the one girl's ID. He put it in a rubber glove, folded it up in the rubber glove, put it in a box, and he found one of the 4 girls that were unalived, her ID in his apartment.
Wow.
So he took, I don't know if you noticed, serial killers take gifts.
Yeah, I watched
They
Dexter.
take trophies. Yeah,
Yeah.
yo, you watch Dexter.
Yeah.
They take trophies.
Yeah.
And it really does happen. This really is true.
Yeah.
You know, and so a lot of people are thinking this girl in Pennsylvania that's missing. This girl's a little older. She was in her 40s. She wasn't, you know, a young girl like with the unalive. But this girl, they were thinking, did they find her ID too? That's what put them on to this case now. So there's all kind of things. If he kept the trophy in that case, did he do other cases? Does he
Yeah.
have trophies that they found from other cases? So we're not going to know until the trial comes because they put a gag order on it. Nobody's allowed to talk. The defense ain't allowed to talk, the prosecution. So everything we know about this case is going to come from TikTok because they're not allowed to talk about the case. They put a gag order on it.
Oh, wow.
And they did that so they can get a jury. You know, a good jury. So you think it's strange, but you think it's kids. They just panicked. Is that what you think?
In
Calling the police.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I think. I mean, psychologically, that just makes total sense.
Right.
You know, I mean, I got hit in the back. My car got hit one time, and I didn't even call the police. I followed the girl home to make sure she was safe because her brakes were out. I didn't even think to call the police. And that's like a tiny, tiny moment where
Yeah.
like my brain just went somewhere else. So psychologically, if you see that, like, what do? You just respond the best way that you can with how you're feeling in that moment.
Yeah, and you know what? We're talking about young kids too. Like we're all thinking they think like we do. They were in shock.
Yep.
They just saw their friends in a brutal state, and they're thinking, I gotta call my other friends. I gotta call my other friends, and that's what they're probably thinking, or call my parents. You know, something like that. They're not I think calling the cops because I was a cop, so that was in my mind. You know what I mean? You gotta call the cops. You gotta call the cops. But on another note, call the cops if you get in an accident. Don't trust the other person. I always call the cops. I don't even care if it's a fender bender. I'm calling the cops.
I know I did the wrong thing.
Call 702 Justice if you get in a car accident. For sure, 702 Justice. Honestly,
time.
because you know what? People, they'll take advantage of you.
Oh, yeah, she totally did.
Yes, you
Yeah.
got to call the cops. I had a guy, I was hit by Mandalay Bay. We were in a traffic jam by Mandalay Bay on the highway. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't even paying attention. I was turning, and a guy hit me. Well, I was standing. He just never stopped, and he hit me, you know? And he's like, hey, buddy, I'll pay for your car and this and that. And I'm like, sorry, I'm calling the cops.
Yeah.
Because I don't trust people anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So my recommendation out there, call the cops. If you're in a car accident, call the cops for everything. Wait, we got a question here. Let me see. How does he know that it was one of the girls' IDs? This is the first time I'm hearing that. Oh, Rebecca, it was one of the girls. That was on News Nation. That was on News Nation, 100%. It was one of the girls' IDs. If you Google that, it'll come up for you. It was 100% one of the girls' IDs. So one of the girls that was unalived in the house. Yeah. I don't know if it was the other girl's ID, though. I have no idea. I'm just assuming that. Yeah. That he may have had one. But 100%, it was one of the girls' IDs from that Idaho case. So, I mean, that's a lot of evidence. So you got his touch DNA. You got the girl's ID. Like, if you're like, how do you represent somebody? This girl was unalived and you have her ID. I mean, that's pretty damaging evidence. Yeah. I mean, that's really damaging evidence. But the society we live in now, we got to make sure we have 12 sane jurors on there that can listen to common sense. Yeah. Who is honestly thinking, I better go check to see if all 4 of my roommates were just killed? That's true. Christine, I agree with you. You know, you just think to we're getting a call. Hey, you got the crime solver and Carmen on the phone.
Hello.
Who do we have, and where are you calling from?
Crime solver. This is a man. Third time caller. Hey,
Wait a second. You're cutting in and out. Try again.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm on speaker because I'm here with my wife. We're trying to figure out what's going on with Carmen. I'm hearing about this Idaho murder, and I came into the show late.
You didn't hear Carmen's story.
No, I didn't hear it. I missed it because I was out back having some salmon with my wife.
I love salmon.
Well, listen, you don't have dinner when the crime solver's on. You have dinner after the crime solver's on.
Listen, we're on the East Coast here, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. I'm doing my best.
well, Listen, I'm going to tell you what happened with Carmen. And I know Kevin. He's a retired police officer.
Oh, cool.
Well, he didn't retire. He quit after 10 years. He said, I'm sick of this job.
That's what I did with teaching. Totally did it.
But listen, Kevin, this is what happened. Her brother, she's from Corona, California.
Yeah.
Her brother he was a lifeguard. He was a wrestler, just like our kids wrestled, when they were young. And he went to a skate park. Was it at night?
Yeah.
It was at night, like a skateboarding park, okay? And he ended up being stabbed and unalived in the park. And we believe it was we believe it was gang activity that did this. He was in the wrong area with this gang, and am I right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was unalived. And Aaron, Aaron's putting his picture up right now on the screen. I don't know if you could see it.
All right, was he like targeted or what? Was that like one of those, like, the gangs have to,
Oh, you mean initiation? You don't know, do you, Carmen?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, like we were talking about earlier, there's some rumors that the guy who did it was actually killed in response to my brother's murder. That's how loved my brother was. So we don't really know if he was targeted. It
that's a
sounded
shame.
like he tried to save his friend's life. It's so many different stories involving it. Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin, I found an article. Her brother, even after he was stabbed, he tried to fight and help his other friends. I mean, and his friends honestly called her brother a hero. He was very loved by his friends. This kid was only 18 years old. I mean, it makes me sick. That's why, I'm trying to get these cases out there. I don't know if you heard me before. We're trying to get a private investigator to donate his time, because rewards are good, but if we get a private investigator to donate his time and maybe give one of my followers 40 hours of their service to help solve their family member being deceased and unalived, it would be worth it. Don't you think that's better than a reward?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it definitely is. What is there, like, any leads at all, or like, did anybody see anything? Like, again, I know I always call in and we always talk about, hey, there's got to be cameras somewhere, somebody that sees something. But I understand, like, if there's gangs involved, people do not. Out that way, out in California, I know there's some pretty salty gangs out there, and people are really afraid to say anything, for fear of retribution.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we believe is going on here.
Yeah.
We believe that they're not talking because they're afraid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because think about this. It happened in a skate park. There was tons of people around. I mean, there had to be. You know what I mean? So they're afraid to talk. And that's why I think, like, something like a reward still, $5,000, if they're scared, they're not going to talk for $5,000. You know what I mean? Or you know what I mean? But if you get a private investigator to help, I think that's the way this show needs to go. We need to get a private investigator to help the show. I really do. And we could get it out there.
The only thing you can help for is that maybe somebody even in the gang gets out and says, hey, listen, I do know I had some information. Someone's always willing to talk. Someone always talks. Someone always says something to somebody. And some people, it weighs heavy on their conscience, and they can't deal with that kind of that guilt. So you never know. Someday somebody might say something. And you know what, Kevin? I agree with you. And Carmen, he brought up a good point. They may have been 18, 20 years old when this happened. Yeah. And as you get older, you mature. So it's been 7 years. They're 27, 28 now. Now they're thinking they're sitting at home. They might have kids of their own. And they're thinking, oh, my God, I saw this and I never said anything. Yeah. And if you did, we forgive you, but come tell us now, right? Yeah. We forgive you, but come tell us now so we can solve this and give your family closure. Honestly, I don't want to make you cry or anything, but when I looked at your Facebook page, your parents almost made me cry. I mean, thinking of losing a kid. Am I right, Kevin? It's got to be the worst thing ever. Well, I mean, both of us have never had to deal with that, and I can't imagine. I don't want to ever imagine what it would feel like. So, and even like a sibling, I mean, I could not imagine that ever happening. So I don't, I couldn't even put myself in her shoes at all whatsoever. I know. It's heartbreaking, and especially, think about it, not being solved is even worse. You know what I mean? It's just worse because you don't know. I mean, you don't know the answers. Yep. And that's what I really feel bad for missing people. You really don't know nothing. And I don't care how long your person's been missing, you're always going to have that hope. Yeah. You're always going to have it. Yeah. It's just the way it is. It's human nature. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate you filling me in. Continue watching, doing a great job there, Crime Solver, and keep having these people on. Maybe someday we'll get some help for these people here. Exactly. Keep it up, man. All right, thanks, man. Thanks for calling in. All right, bye-bye. People really seem. I'm looking here. People like the
the private investigator
Yeah,
thing.
it's a good
I
idea.
mean, it really is a good idea. So any private investigators, reach out to me. Okay, reach out to me. Donate your time. And if you do, I promise you, I will promote your organization upside and down if you could help the Crime Solver and my followers. I'll tell you what, I will promote you. Go Live Vegas will promote you. We'll all promote you because you'll be doing a great thing and you'll be doing a great service for somebody like this. You know, it's expensive to hire a private investigator. It really is. I mean, I think we talked before, you know, probably the cheapest charge is $150. You know, I got a couple private investigators here in Vegas that will work with me. So if it was a case in Vegas, I do know a couple there that I could maybe convince to volunteer their time. Yeah. But I think that's definitely something we need to go on because rewards just it doesn't help.
Yeah.
So listen, we got 2 minutes. Let's wrap this up. What would you say? Yeah, I'm going to let you talk to the person. What would you say to somebody that might have knowledge to come forward? What would you say to them? I know that's a tough question.
About my brother?
Yeah.
Wow, this one might make me cry.
Okay.
No,
I'm looking for tissues.
Yeah, I guess it's been 7 years and it still hurts. It doesn't hurt every day like it used to, but when it hurts deeply. And I think most of all, it hurts my mom. It crushes her every day. I mean, she wakes up in nightmares every day for 7 years.
Right.
That hasn't gone away. And so I know for her, having some kind of, like you said, closure, some kind of hope, some kind of like, I'm working on this, can take that pain and transfer it over into some kind of mission. And so you'd be doing some good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And listen, we forgive you. You were young. You were young when that happened. We understand. You were scared. We understand that too. But now you're an adult, probably with kids yourself. Okay? Do the right thing. Let's come forward. If you go to thecrimesolver.com, you can put anything in there and we'll refer it over to the police. You could put anonymous tips in there. There he is there. You could put anonymous tips in there. I will get them tips to the police. Even if you don't want to call the police yourself and you're scared, you can go to my website, thecrimesolver.com, put the tips, and I'll call the police for you and give you the tip. That's what we do. That's because a lot of people don't even want to call the cops. They're afraid their number's going to be seen or this and that. You can put a tip on my site, and I will get the tip to the police. We'll do whatever we can. Listen, we need to get Carmen and her family justice. And that's what this is. This is justice. It's not fair that your brother's life was taken at 18 years old. And here we are 7 years later. We need to bring him to justice. And there's a ton of cases out there that we need to bring to justice. And that's why we need the private investigator for sure. But listen, we want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Good luck with this acting thing.
Thank you.
Listen, I'm gonna. Do you take acting lessons on Tuesdays?
Yeah, I do.
I'm gonna start coming.
Oh, nice. Yeah. You can
Don't
be
make
scene partners.
Don't make fun out of me.
I won't.
Will I be? I'm sure I'm the oldest guy there, right?
Unless Raph is there. Raph
Okay.
is older than you.
You think?
I think.
All right. That's all
don't
right.
know.
I get along with younger
I
kids.
think
We'll
you
be
look
fine.
young, so.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Listen, so you got to help me out. Don't laugh at me. I'm going to be really nervous.
I'm very supportive.
Are you?
Yeah.
All right, listen, thank you, everybody. We will see you next week. No, we won't. We're not, no podcast next week. We're taking a week off. I'm playing in the World Series of Poker next week. So 2 weeks. We'll be back in 2 weeks. No podcast next week. We'll see you guys. Love yous all.